last couple of months of my life have just been the strangest times. Yeah, most of my life's been pretty odd, but it's been really unusual. Well, let's see. Synchronicities. Yes, I pay attention to this, and lately synchronicities are becoming literally overwhelming. Like, oh, I have studied um, religious philosophies of various types most of my life. I've studied philosophy of Buddhism probably since my 20s, on and off. But recently I'd crossed a threshold where I really felt that I needed to understand the Buddhist concept of what they call emptiness. Sunyata, I think, emptiness, okay, in English. And emptiness isn't nothing, okay. And it's a difficult concept. Making headway with it. Been listening to a number of different people speaking on it, like Thich Nhat Hanh, Zen Buddhist monk from Vietnam, during the war, had conferences with John F. Kennedy and de Gaulle and such. He's pretty well known. Passed away some years back now. Alan Watts, the English philosopher, he has plenty to say on the subject, you know. Oh, and then a couple of other Tibetan Buddhist monks that I listen to on the subject. And I am not done yet, because this is a tough one, and I'm interested in what they have to say there. But, so, out of the blue, a guy who works in my landscape over here shows up the other morning after I've spent over 48 hours in the evenings researching emptiness, and he just, out of the blue, walks up and goes, "What do you think about Buddhist philosophy?" Come on, kid. You know, when I started listening to that in my 20s with Alan Watts, when he was alive, I used to listen to Watts almost every night. But lately, it's this pursuit of emptiness, trying to understand it. I thought that was pretty crazy, out of the blue. This kid's never asked me a question about philosophy before, you know. Well, and I get a couple customers here, and we get a thud. Oh, and a big old soursop, a couple 2-3 pound, fell out of the soursop tree, but hit the ground, cracked. So I pick it up, bust it off the cracked end, and I asked the lady, "Do you like soursop?" She says, "Oh, I love soursop." Oh, very good. So I handed her the end, and she was having a good time eating it as they were shopping. And, you know, I took a few pieces out, and she says, "Well, boy, there's not many seeds in here." I said, "I know, this is a rather seedless variety, by the way. Anybody interested in soursops from my nursery, they come from a seedless type." But, so I pulled some out, eating it, checking to see how much seed there really is in here, because I was out of soursop seed as far as I knew. And, okay, so I said, "Yeah, that's enough in there." I put it down in the nursery, set it in a flat, and got busy, took care of the folks, went on, made dinner, forgot about it all. Got up the next morning, opened up the computer. First thing hits me, oh, I got a seed order, big one too. Hey, what's one of the first seeds on the list? Soursops. I'm going, oh my goodness, that's synchronistic. I happen to have one, I think, someplace. And so I'm out walking around the nursery for 20 minutes trying to figure out, what did I do with that thing? I finally found it and brought it in. Cleaned it out, you know, got my chance to have soursop for breakfast, because it's the easiest way to get the seeds out of these is with your teeth. Yeah, so I said, well, that was pretty cool that, you know, this fruit would drop when I was out of seed, full of seed, and then the next day somebody wants the seed. But then, one of my sons in Wisconsin, who hadn't really spoken to me since my birthday in July, I haven't said anything to him. All of a sudden, out of the blue, he emails me, tells me he's making mead, and he's got a recipe for mead made with soursop juice. And his kid's in Madison, Wisconsin, all right? He's never eaten a soursop in his life. He contacted me because he sent me a link to the video about making it with soursop juice. And, you know, and then he asked me, you know, what do they taste like? Which is very hard to describe. We all know that. You know, he knows I have a soursop tree here. I've talked about them. And, you know, I said, well, you know, it's basically a kind of a sweet tart thing. Real hard to extract the juice out of them, too, by the way. They are. It's kind of like a combination of fruit juice and cotton. Well, anywho, so, yeah, fruit falls from the tree. Lady likes the fruit. Order for the seeds the next morning. One more day, and my son, who hasn't talked to me since July, wants to know about using soursop juice in a mead recipe. Pretty strange, honestly. It really is pretty strange. It's almost as strange as, oh, here, I made regular old coleslaw with mayo the other night, and we were eating it, and Ellen was complaining. She said the cabbage had a slightly horseradishy flavor. I agree. There was a rather strong undertaste in it. I wasn't pleased. And so I'm thinking, let's see, there are some Japanese pickled cabbage recipes that might fix this. I should look up some recipes for making Japanese pickled cabbage with kombu and stuff, you know. But I just thought it. I did not say a word to anybody. I went and turned on YouTube and kicked back to watch some TV, and what do I got? 10 styles of Japanese pickled vegetable recipes pop up. Now, this is not the first time this has happened. Sometimes I know that the smartphone or something was on and the mics were tracking us, that there was a mic on in the house. And it does that, man. That stuff listens to you. It's like having rats in the walls, but not this time. It could have been pure coincidence, but it was a little too strange when you consider all the other weird synchronistic things that have been happening around here. You know, there was a time when I believed in, well, like Alan Watts would say, describing how our inner being works with synchronicity, that if we were spiders all sitting in a web and one of the spiders starts pulling on the web, well, the whole web vibrates all the way out, and so it affects all the other spiders, and that may vibrate back again. And that's kind of one of the ways that the universe is synchronistic. It is reactive. It's interactive with us. We really can't do anything, think anything around here without somehow getting a reaction from it, and that has been happening a lot. But the one thing I never considered that synchronicity could affect the internet. Oh boy, that's a good one. Huh? So anyway, it gets weirder. Yeah, that you know, you can blow all that off. Everybody can listen to me and say, Bill, it's just coincidence. You know, you're a little nutty. Well, I agree. Anyway, so this Perseid meteor shower is ending now. Okay, we didn't see much of it here. There was quite a bit of cloud. It wasn't that great. We went up the mountain. It would have been spectacular. You know, through the cams, we could see the Perseids. But I didn't see much anything down here. And I was probably sleeping anyway. But about 4 days ago, I believe it was, I came walking out here into the yard, and I was heading to the shed over here behind. I was going to do some potting. Well, and that was my first trip out into the nursery for the morning. Well, I hit the end of the building here, and I take a turn and start to go towards the shed, look down, and right there in the middle of the path between my feet is this. Yeah, it's a brownish, slightly reddish rock, grainy type surface, slightly pitted, not much. Anyway, I looked down at it and I said, that don't belong there. That wasn't there yesterday. How'd the rock get there? But the rock was reddish. There is so much reddish rock around here. Lava. A lot of the lava is reddish. So, you know, I probably could have almost just given the thing a kick and kept walking. But I said, nah, it's a peculiar looking thing. I bent over and I picked it up. And when I picked it up, I went, oh man, that is not lava. Okay. Um, yeah, it's heavy. The rock is approximately 2 inches by 1.5 inches, almost round, a little pointed on one end over here. Um, you know, I'm not a golfer. It's a little short of golf ball size, but yeah, somewhere around there. Anyway, um, well, as soon as I picked it up, I said, no, this is not normal. Something is odd here. So then I took it into the shed and I put it against my Makita grinder, and I ground a spot right there on the end, and you can see it. And as I ground it, well, the first thing I found, this thing is really hard. Now we do have some hard materials here. There's a couple of forms of basalt. Meteorite formed under a glacier during the Ice Age from a lava eruption that formed underneath the ice. That is very hard. They used it here for axes and tools, like, because it was so hard. But you're going to go up, I think, about 11,000 feet up on Mauna Kea to even find this stuff. But that's one of the hardest rocks we have here. I can't make a comparison. I don't know what mole it is, but this rock is hard. It's very hard. Okay, it took me quite a while, and my grinder was grunting to even get that much of it off the corner. And once I got it off and I put a magnifying glass on it, well, you can clearly see there's something here shining back at me that looks vaguely metallic. No, well, now, we don't have metal in lava. Plus, once I ground it, I could see there are no air spaces in this thing. Almost all the rock here has some form of air. Okay, yeah, most of it is somewhat airy. This thing's not airy. 3.6 ounces, inch and a half by 2, heavy beast. It really is a very heavy rock and a very hard rock. Lava in general, it's not hard. Yeah, you can work some of this lava with a shovel. I have. Shave it like cheese. But, well, today I had invited over the neighbors, and one of them, Kahoa, is a geologist. Okay, now he's not doing it for a living. He is retired at this point, but he has a degree in geology. And we've discussed geological subjects many times in the past. I also have another friend, Hugh, who is a geologist, but he's not here. He's in California. Hugh, what do you think of this rock? Huh? Is it a leverite? Huh? Should I just kicked it? Kahoa says this is a meteor. Meteorite. He was positive. He didn't even pick it up. He took one look at it. He says, "Oh, that's a meteorite." I said, "Really? That's kind of what I thought it was too." And then I recall too that there was a boom on my roof. There was a big boom on the roof. Now, we get birds hitting the windows and things, and whatever, there was a boom on the roof, so what? Well, now I'm thinking that this probably danced off the roof and landed in the path on the way to my shed. That's what the boom was. Pretty cool. Now, I was looking at the value of meteorites, and I mean, this is semi-stony, I guess, because it does react slightly to a magnet. There is a small amount of metal in here. It's slightly magnetic, but it's mostly stony. And, by the ounce, this baby could be worth almost $500. Now, is that a space fall? Yeah, it's weird times, man. There are places where, we would hunt meteorites, right? Dry lake beds in Arizona, Nevada, California. Dry lake beds. Out on the lake bed, there's nothing out there that'll work to a metal detector unless somebody years ago, buried their flathead Ford out there or something. There's no metal in a dry lake bed for the most part, and people drive over with metal detectors hooked to jeeps, even, yeah, to find meteors. They do that. Antarctica, of course, laying on the glacier, been laying there for 1,000 years. Dark stones on white ice, not hard to find. Same thing with the dry lake beds. They're generally grayish, whitish, and the meteors are not. So they could stand out well. And if they're metallic, then the metal detectors will bring them up. These are the kinds of places where a person would go to look for this sort of thing, you know. You don't come to a volcanic island in the middle of the ocean where, let's face, most of the Perside rocks that made it this far down, they're under the oceans out here somewhere. There's so much water, man. It's all Pacific, and that's where most of the rocks will fall. You know, the fact that they managed to hit the island, let alone land in my footpath, is pretty amazing. But, like I say, half the island looks like that. And so you could be kicking them around all day out here on a lava flow, and unless you're really observant, you probably wouldn't notice. Yeah, it's just not a good place to hunt meteorites. Nevertheless, so it's been strange times. Oh, and for those of you who haven't been getting enough Gracie, she's been here the whole time, hanging out with me. Yep, isn't that right, girl? Yeah. She's such a good kitty. Yeah, hi. Should we go at it, huh, bub? Come on, let's go at it. Come on. Yeah. Yeah, that's my video production cat. It's been pretty strange times. No pain. Aloha. Hang loose.